What's up everyone, Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive into the news, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a couple of different services. The first of which is a Bitcoin savings account where you earn interest on your Bitcoin paid in Bitcoin. And the second of which is to use it as collateral for a Canadian or US dollar loan. If you want to check out either of those, there's a link down below. And if you opt to get a loan, they'll actually credit you with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin. And secondly, if you're into Bitcoin, then of course privacy is an important thing. And one of the things I use to help with that is NordVPN. I have this on my phone and my computer. What it does is it hides your IP address, it helps encrypt your browsing data, and it has the added benefit of unlocking geo-blocked content. So if you want to check that out, there's a link down below, and that will get you a deal where it's only $3 per month. And with that, let's dive into the news. So the stories that we're taking a look at today are regulation heavy, in that regulators seem to be licking their chops and circling ready to pounce. And I mean, this is no surprise, regulators gonna regulate, but I do think that eventually it will kind of be null and void what they're trying to do if Bitcoin does indeed succeed. So this first one is from the Financial Action Task Force, and the regulations that they're proposing are not new. In fact, they've been around for a while, but it is getting closer to be put into law. And so what they're trying to do is lower lower the threshold in which would trigger KYC, AML, know your customer, anti-money laundering. So having to hand over a lot of information about yourself in order to execute transactions, not just fiat to crypto, but crypto to crypto. So, or even just transactions, executing a withdrawal from an exchange where you're moving Bitcoin to a private wallet. And so what would this include? Well, it would include not only knowing the name of the purchaser, the sender, but also the recipient. So if you're sending money off of an exchange to another person, then they need to know who it's going to. And what would that threshold be? $1,000. And many people that are against this regulation have essentially called it absurd. It's kind of ridiculous. So all in all, again, we're kind of moving towards this, and it's being pushed, particularly throughout Europe and G20 member states. But is it gonna go all the way through? Possibly. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think the people that want privacy will find ways to attain it. And so moving here to LocalBitcoins, this used to be kind of a bastion of where people would go to obtain that privacy, but that has kind of more or less fallen into these regulatory hurdles themselves as well. Now, LocalBitcoins, you used to be able to link up either online or in person for cash trades to exchange fiat for Bitcoin. But they have since started to increase their know your customer requirements. So you need to actually sign up with an account and provide ID at this point in order to utilize the service, which has caused many people to more or less abandon the service. Now, along with this, they've also recently had a banner up on their website warning people that if they use Tor, a private encrypted browser, it could increase their risk of theft of their Bitcoin, which many people have come out and said that it is incredibly misleading. So there's a quote from a Redditor here that says, "I don't believe for 1 minute this is well intended. Name me one exploit in Tor that is not valid in Firefox." So again, it's just an example of, I believe, a website that in order to function understandably has to abide by the rules of the jurisdictions they're in, so Europe and North America. And it's understandable that a business that wants to stay a business and operate and turn a profit needs to abide by the rules of the country in which they're in. So I understand why, but it just kind of goes to show that these oftentimes centralized solutions cannot escape these regulatory hurdles. So those that want to be outside of those regulations need to look elsewhere for more decentralized solutions and more peer-to-peer solutions, because a website with a server that relies on infrastructure and relies on bank accounts and things like that is going to be clamped down upon. And again, just another example of it. And finally, we have a U.S. Treasury official. She was in Switzerland recently, and she was speaking to some journalists, and she said, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Libra, our message is the same to all of these companies, which is an interesting choice of words there. Anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism has to be built into your design from the get-go. So essentially what she was saying here is that it was mostly spoken about Libra, but then enveloped other cryptocurrencies as she went on. But more or less, you need to abide by the rules of U.S. regulators regardless of where you are, which a couple things. One, it just shows the overreach of U.S. regulators. They're regulating within their country and then saying this applies to the globe, because they are kind of this central beacon and the world reserve currency at the moment. They're able to get away with that. But I think over time that will be replaced, and the US will not have as much pull. But again, they'll just be replaced by whoever the next superpower is. And so people need to look outside of these systems and start finding alternative solutions. The other thing about this is Libra. Sure, it makes sense that it's easy to go after Libra and say these are the regulations you need to abide by, because, well, I mean, it's put together by Facebook, and their Libra association is essentially just a number of companies coming together to one table to decide how the protocol will function. So that makes sense to me, although you could kind of Trojan horse your way in there as well. But secondly, when she goes to apply it to other cryptocurrencies, especially when it comes to Bitcoin, some of the other centralized ones, yeah, maybe, if there's a central figure you can look to, you might be able to coerce them into doing certain things. But when it comes to Bitcoin, it's just there. It just is. It exists. It doesn't listen to people speak to talking heads that say you have to do this, you have to do that. It just functions. And so perhaps she's saying this in the sense that companies that deal with these currencies and companies that allow for the exchange between currencies are going to have to face these types of regulations. But at the end of the day, the end goal is to get everybody using this stuff, right? The end goal for any Bitcoiner is the proliferation of Bitcoin around the globe so that people can use this kind of decentralized global currency as freely as they like. And, we've already seen the building of privacy tools on top of Bitcoin with things like Wasabi Wallet, with the Samurai Whirlpool, with Lightning Network. All of Lightning Network is essentially obfuscated when you're doing transactions peer-to-peer on that network. You can't see really anything that's going on, and even less so if your node is connected via Tor and you funded it with previously mixed coins. It's very, if not very difficult, if not near impossible to see what the hell is going on. So in my mind, I think that the regulators are going to try to regulate the hell out of these on-ramps. But what do you do when everybody's already on? What do you do when everybody's already onboarded? Because at that point, there's very little, if anything, to regulate other than companies that are accepting payment. And even then, if the company is opting out of being part of this system, what do you do at that point? It truly does become peer-to-peer, because you've got borderless worldwide finance and commerce that is free of any kind of regulatory system. And sure, there will be some that comply with whatever the regulations of their jurisdictions are, but there will be others that do not. And the others that do not, all of a sudden, the cost of not complying is no longer, it's no longer difficult to just say, nah. And I'm curious what the next step after that for regulators will be. Because I don't think it's going to be, well, we tried. I think it's going to be more extreme than that. And I guess time will tell. I do think that we're going to come to a time where there's this kind of butting of heads and there's this real crunch when regulators start to get desperate and they start to realize we don't have a grasp on this. I think we're starting to see inklings of that now. Everything I talked about today was all regulation. I think we'll see even more of it during another bull run, and I don't quite know how it's going to pan out. In the end, I think Bitcoin will be resilient because, again, it just is. It exists. People can use it, but there will be a concerted effort to try and fit it into traditional financial boxes. And I think there will be a time where it'll be difficult to be a Bitcoiner, but in the end, I think that it will kind of come out on top and it will rise above those things. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think is the path for Bitcoin regulation? Do you think any of it is going to have any real clout in the long term? Or do you think that eventually Bitcoin just breaks down those walls and the world finally has kind of like a free financial system? Guess we'll see. One other thing I wanted to mention that was not regulation heavy, there was an interview actually of Akon, and I knew that he was kind of into Bitcoin before, but he was on a radio station, The Breakfast Club, and he was talking about Bitcoin. He was talking about money in general. He was talking about what backs Bitcoin, what backs the dollar. And it was actually pretty good. It was a short clip that I saw here, but he's asking the right questions. I wouldn't say that it's the best interview I've ever seen, but you can see the tidbits of great information coming out there, and he's asking all the right questions, and he's getting the people that were hosting the radio show to also, I believe, question what money is. And that's the rabbit hole that you go down when you start with Bitcoin. Why does this have value? And then you step back and go, well, why does anything have value? Why do the dollars in my pocket have value? Why does my credit card somehow have value? I think it's interesting. The link to the video will be down below. Let me know what you thought about it. Very exciting. This week is pretty wild for me. So right now I'm home in Calgary and we've got Alberta Blockchain Week going on. So myself and the guys at Bull Bitcoin are kind of there representing, trying to cut the bullshit as much as possible. Andreas Antonopoulos is in town. I get to MC the day that he's speaking, which is very exciting. I'm trying to do an interview with him. He's very, very booked up, and it looks like any of his interview spots for that day are kind of later in the day. And unfortunately, but also fortunately, I guess in a roundabout way, I'm also going to Honeybadger and I fly out that night. So I'm going to see if I can sneak in an interview with Andreas. If anybody sees this or if he sees this, I hope that something works out where maybe I can sneak in earlier in the day, but we'll see. I understand he's a busy guy, but I would love to chat with him. It was kind of on my bucket list since I got into Bitcoin, and it would be really cool to just have a brief chat. Anyways, yes, I am headed to Baltic Honeybadger. Holy hell, the lineup there, I'm super excited. Safe is there, Jimmy, Samson Mao, Rodolfo, Max Kaiser, Peter Todd, Stefan Lavera, Dan Held, Adam from Wasabi Wallet, Pierre Richard, Jameson Lopp, Adam Back, just so many people to mention here. Stoked to once again see Matt Odell. Just so many people, so many great panels. I will be there. If you're going to be there, make sure you say hi. Come up and yeah, start up a convo. I'm excited to see everybody. I'm going to be there with a bunch of the guys from the Bull Bitcoin team, myself, Dave, Francis, everybody. Also, if you want to pick up some swag for the actual event, if you're going to be there, then there's going to be a Bull Bitcoin booth with some of the swag, but you got to pre-order before you go there. So there's a Baltic Honeybadger shirt, there's a new Bull Bitcoin hat for the event, there's the hodl hat, and the official hat of Baltic Honeybadger as well. I love these designs. I was shown a couple of them the other day, but yeah, if you do end up getting one of those and you're going to the event, just check off on the shipping options. There's an option to just pick it up there at the booth. So yeah, be sure to check that out. With that, I'm gonna wrap up, you guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's gonna be a busy week, so I'm gonna try and get in as many videos as I can, but again, with the travel, we'll see what happens. So if you're new here, of course, hit like, subscribe, and share. Actually, if you're not new here, also do hit those first two, the like and the share. If you want to help out the show in another way, of course, you can hit up either the sponsors, Ledn and Nord. Those are down below in the links. And finally, if you really like what you saw, you can always drop me a Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page. And with that, I am out. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you, I think, tomorrow for your daily session.